So hey guys, welcome to another video, and I think it's time to kind of do an updated Boomkin video and kind of explain why I'm not maining a Boomkin anymore, because people keep telling me that, oh my god dude, you should try Boomkin again, they are so strong, so many numbers, and I keep replying with the same thing. It's just, I don't care about the numbers, I just dislike the gameplay of the new Boomkin. I'm still off-specking a Boomkin because we just have too many healers, and when we're doing like Blackrock Foundry normal, or we're just re-killing heroic, you know, basically farm, I still go in as a Boomkin if we have too many healers, and I still do decent damage. That's partly due to the fact that Boomkins are just easy to play nowadays. And if you think Boomkins are difficult, then you never really played it in Pandaria, I think. The problem with me is that I dislike classes where you can do it this way, where you can deal with the situation this way, or you're just doing it wrong. Okay? And that's, in Pandaria, Boomkin had so much depth, right? If you have a pack of 3 mobs, right? You had a pack of 3 mobs. And in Pandaria, you were like, okay, I'm in Solar Eclipse, so I'm gonna throw on a Sunfire if they're gonna live for the entire duration of Sunfire. But Moonfire, not so much. Moonfire is not worth it. But, oh, look, a trinket. Oh, another trinket. Now Moonfire is worth it, so I'm gonna clip them with Moonfire and Sunfire, and I'm just gonna continue my normal rotation, and maybe I want to get into Lunar Eclipse as fast as possible, and maybe I can utilize Starfall there as well. Okay, nowadays it's just, you have 3 mobs, well, I'm gonna press F or whatever the button for your Moonfire, Sunfire is. You just do that. Okay, the more mobs, the better. And there's, there is no real depth. Basically, when you are presented with a situation, you ask yourself just one question: Starfall or Star Surge? And that's it. That's all you're doing when you're playing a Boomkin. You're not really doing anything else. You're just deciding between Starfall and Star Surge. Alright, Star Surge, 1 or 2 targets, Starfall, 3 targets. And more. So that's all you're doing. There is no real depth to this. There isn't. You might be like, oh, I'm gonna save my Star Surge charges because in about 20 seconds we're gonna get a bunch of ads. So I'm just gonna use one. Oh, it procced again. Oh, it doesn't proc. It's not gonna proc. It's not gonna proc. I don't have any Star Surge charges now, because it's just RNG. And in Pandaria it was RNG as well, but this RNG didn't affect the entire class, because your class is just those 3 little spinning things. That's what Boomkin is right now. This thing, that doesn't mean anything. Eclipse doesn't mean anything anymore, right? It just doesn't. It's all about those 3 spinning things, about the 3 charge system that we have. That's all Boomkin is right now, and I just dislike that. I don't want to go into an encounter with single target and have just nothing to do. Okay, Boomkin was hit hard when they removed snapshotting. That was one of the biggest things that just slammed Boomkins on single target, because that was pretty much the only thing we were doing aside from trying to optimize our Eclipse, so we move back and forth as possible and we have Nature's Grace as much as possible. Alright, now it's just not that. So when you're doing single target, you're just pressing buttons in a certain order. That's all you're doing. You're not doing anything else. You're just pressing buttons, and maybe if you want to press a different button, you shouldn't, because you're either gonna do it this way or you're gonna do it wrong, and you're gonna suffer in terms of DPS. There's no little tricks, there's no little tips and little things that you can do to kind of min-max and to basically use this system to do something more. Everyone's gonna do the same. If you have 5 Boomkins fighting an encounter, they're gonna do the exact same thing throughout the entire encounter. It doesn't matter if one of them is shit and one of them is the best Boomkin in the world. They're still gonna do the same thing. And that's, I think, the biggest problem for me. In Mists of Pandaria, the gap between a shit Moonkin and a really good Moonkin was pretty damn big. Boomkins were really easy to learn because the rotation wasn't difficult. The rotation was one of the simplest rotation in the game. But behind this rotation, it was not so visible, it was not too obvious, but there was so much depth. And you could really tell. You can have two Boomkins in Mists of Pandaria, both would have the best gear in the world, but one of them would do like 50k more DPS. Just because he's using a couple of tricks and he understands how the class works and how the synergies work. Here, you have two Boomkins with the same gear, one is shit, one is really good. They're pretty much gonna pull out the same amount of DPS. And that's what really bothers me. Because I can't enjoy a class that essentially plays itself. It essentially plays itself. I don't really have to do anything. I don't have to think. I just press the buttons I know I have to press. And that's it. No thinking, nothing. You have 3 targets? Well, you better fucking Starfall. You have more targets? Well, you have to dot every single one of them with both fucking dots. That's it. That's all you're doing. You don't have mushrooms, so we can't prepare for burst AoE. Hurricane is shit, so it's not worth casting at all. And it's just bleh. Just a big pile of meh. The only thing I kind of enjoy, which is kind of sad because it's on the most boring boss in Warlords so far, is going Iron Maidens with Balance of Power. And I have dots on all 3 of them, and I'm trying to alternate between them so I don't have to refresh the dots, and I'm trying to extend them on all 3 targets. But that's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. I'm just starfalling on cooldown pretty much, and I'm just extending dots. That's all you're doing. There's no depth to this anymore. None. You either do it this way or you do it wrong, and that's the playstyle I just dislike. And even though I can pull good deeps, for fuck's sakes, on Chromog I'm so far ahead of everyone else just because, ooh, the Grasping Rune, 1 Starfall or 2 and I have 3 million damage done just by pressing a button twice. Now, that's the only thing. The only really fun thing about Boomkins is Starfall because it's fucking mental. But that gets old really fast. Pressing 1 button and see little stars fall gets old really fast. And I'm just sorry about that, but I just don't... I don't know, maybe it's just not for me. I don't think this class is meant for me. And I don't really understand why they changed it so much. Because at the end of Mists of Pandaria, Blizzard was like, alright, we really like how Boomkins are playing right now. But then they just looked at the numbers, and the shit Boomkins were doing shit DPS, and really good Boomkins were pulling incredible DPS. And they didn't like this gap between those 2 players, the bad and the good player. They didn't like it. So they removed most of it. Which means getting rid of depth. Because the good player will know the little tips and tricks about how the class works and how it synergizes and what you're supposed to do. The bad player won't. So they didn't like that, so they removed this gap between a good player and a bad player. And that just... it just wrecked it for me. I just don't enjoy it anymore. Even when I'm... This is the stupid thing, right? I can do ridiculous damage on fights like Blast Furnace and Chromog, and I'm still not having much fun. Even when pulling ridiculous numbers. And when you're playing a DPS class and you're doing really good DPS, how the fuck can you not have fun? You know, and that's just Boomkin. Even when I'm pulling the most ridiculous numbers, I am just not enjoying myself. And that kind of sucks, doesn't it? So this is why I'm not making Boomkin anymore. It's not for me. It's for other people. Other people are loving the new Boomkin, but for me, it's gone. This is not the Boomkin I want to play. This is not the Boomkin I enjoy. And this is not the Boomkin that I loved in Mists of Pandaria. It's just not. It's a completely different class.